Beneath the rolling farmlands and modern cities of Ohio lies a landscape dotted with enigmatic monuments that have puzzled archaeologists for generations. These ancient earthworks, towering mounds, and mysterious stone carvings were created by peoples whose names we may never know, using techniques we're still trying to understand. Tonight, we'll journey through 19 of these remarkable sites, each one a testament to the ingenuity and vision of America's first architects. These aren't stories of lost civilizations from distant lands, but mysteries that exist in our own backyard, challenging everything we think we know about prehistoric North America. Before we start, I'd love to know something. If you actually live in the USA, which state are you listening from, and what time is it right now? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Chapter 1: Serpent Mound, the Ancient Guardian. High atop a plateau in Adams County, a massive earthen serpent winds its way across the landscape for over 1,300 feet. This isn't just any mound, it's the largest serpent effigy in the world, a sinuous earthwork that can only be properly appreciated from above. The Great Serpent Mound curves and undulates with such fluid precision that early European settlers refused to believe Native Americans could have created something so sophisticated. The serpent's body averages about 20 feet in width and rises roughly 3 feet above the surrounding ground. Its tail begins as a tight triple coil, then the body weaves through 7 graceful curves before terminating in an open mouth that appears to be swallowing an oval object, possibly representing an egg or the sun. This head points toward the summer solstice sunset, though whether this alignment was intentional remains hotly debated. What makes this monument truly perplexing is its age. For decades, archaeologists assumed it was built by the Adena culture around 2,000 years ago. However, radiocarbon dating of charcoal found within the mound produced dates ranging from around 900 to just over 2,000 years old. Some researchers now suggest it might be the work of the Fort ancient culture created sometime between 1,000 and 800 years ago. Others argue for multiple construction phases, with different groups adding to or modifying the original design over centuries. The serpent's location adds another layer of mystery. It sits atop Serpent Mound crater, a geological formation created by either a meteorite impact or volcanic activity around 300 million years ago. The ancient builders chose this spot deliberately, but we can only speculate about their reasons. Did they recognize the unique geological features? Was there something spiritually significant about this elevated position overlooking Brush Creek Valley? The mound's construction would have required moving thousands of tons of earth without metal tools or wheeled vehicles. Clay and stones were carefully layered to create the serpent's form, then covered with a final layer of soil. The precision of the curves suggests detailed planning and possibly the use of templates or measuring systems we don't fully understand. Various theories attempt to explain the serpent's meaning. Some see it as a representation of Draco, the constellation visible in the northern sky. Others believe it depicts the path of a comet or eclipse shadow. Native American oral traditions speak of powerful serpent beings, both creative and destructive forces in the natural world. The egg or oval shape at the serpent's mouth might represent the cosmic egg of creation, or perhaps the sun being consumed during an eclipse. What's particularly intriguing is that serpent symbolism appears in cultures worldwide, often associated with wisdom, fertility, and the cycle of life and death. The Ohio serpent shares certain characteristics with serpent mounds found in other parts of North America, suggesting either cultural exchange or independent development of similar spiritual concepts. Modern preservation efforts have revealed additional mysteries. Ground-penetrating radar has detected possible internal structures within the mound, but these features remain largely unexcavated to preserve the monument's integrity. Magnetic surveys have also identified anomalies that might indicate buried artifacts or additional construction elements. The Serpent Mound continues to captivate visitors and researchers alike. Every year, thousands of people climb the observation tower or walk the perimeter path, trying to comprehend the vision and effort required to create such a monument. Yet, despite over a century of archaeological investigation, the serpent keeps its secrets, slithering through time with its true meaning still coiled in mystery. Chapter 2: Newark Earthworks, the Sacred Geometry. In what is now the city of Newark, ancient architects once created something truly extraordinary, a vast complex of geometric earthworks that originally covered over 4 square miles. The Newark Earthworks represent perhaps the most sophisticated example of prehistoric engineering in North America, a masterwork of precision that challenges our assumptions about ancient mathematical knowledge. The complex originally consisted of multiple interconnected enclosures, each one a perfect geometric shape carved into the landscape. The Great Circle, still partially intact today, forms a perfect ring measuring 1,200 feet in diameter, surrounded by an earthen wall averaging 12 feet in height. Its interior could comfortably hold 4 football fields. The precision is remarkable. The circle deviates from perfect roundness by less than 5 feet anywhere along its circumference. Connected to the Great Circle by parallel walls was the octagon, an 8-sided figure covering 50 acres. This structure demonstrates mathematical sophistication that rivals modern surveying techniques. Each side of the octagon measures 550 feet, and the angles are precise to within a few arc minutes. Inside the octagon, archaeologists have identified a smaller circle and various other geometric features that suggest complex ceremonial uses. The right earthworks, a third major component, formed a large square enclosure with walls 20 feet high and 50 feet wide at the base. Though largely destroyed by urban development, historical surveys documented its precise dimensions and orientation. Like the other structures, it was built with remarkable accuracy, its corners forming perfect right angles. What makes these earthworks truly mysterious is their apparent astronomical alignments. The octagon's axis aligns with the maximum northern rising point of the moon, an 18 6/10 year cycle that ancient peoples somehow recognized and incorporated into their monumental architecture. This suggests not only sophisticated astronomical knowledge, but also generational planning and construction spanning decades. The builders belonged to what archaeologists call the Hopewell culture, which flourished between 2000 and 1600 years ago. Hopewell peoples created a vast trade network stretching from the Rocky Mountains to the Atlantic Ocean, bringing together materials like obsidian from Yellowstone, copper from Lake Superior, and shells from the Gulf Coast. The Newark Earthworks likely served as a major ceremonial center for this far-flung network. Construction of the complex would have required moving over 7 million cubic feet of earth, all accomplished with wooden digging sticks, stone tools, and baskets. The labor investment represents thousands of work hours, suggesting either a large permanent population or periodic gatherings where dispersed communities came together for massive construction projects. The earthworks weren't built all at once. Archaeological evidence suggests construction occurred in phases over several centuries, with different groups adding new elements or modifying existing structures. This raises fascinating questions about how construction knowledge and architectural plans were transmitted across generations without written language. Inside the enclosures, archaeologists have found evidence of large-scale gatherings, ritual deposits, and burials. The Great Circle contained numerous cremated remains and exotic grave goods, suggesting it served as a sacred burial ground for elite individuals. The octagon appears to have hosted different types of ceremonies, possibly related to astronomical observations or seasonal celebrations. The original complex included additional features now lost to development, roads, and agriculture. Historical accounts describe other circles, squares, and connecting pathways that created an integrated ceremonial landscape. A parallel-walled avenue once extended nearly 3 miles southeast from the octagon toward the Licking River, though its purpose remains unknown. Modern investigations using ground-penetrating radar and magnetometry continue to reveal hidden features within the earthworks. Subsurface anomalies suggest additional structures, possibly wooden posts or stone features that marked specific astronomical alignments or ceremonial spaces. Today, portions of the Newark Earthworks survive as parks and golf courses, an incongruous setting for such ancient monuments. The Mound Builders Country Club plays golf inside the octagon, while the Great Circle serves as a public park. This modern usage, while protecting the earthworks from complete destruction, makes comprehensive archaeological investigation nearly impossible. The Newark Earthworks remain fundamentally mysterious despite decades of research. We may never fully understand how scattered Hopewell communities coordinated such massive construction projects, or why they invested so much effort in creating precise geometric forms that could only be properly appreciated from elevated viewpoints that didn't exist in their time. Chapter 3. Hopewell Culture. Mound City, the ceremonial heartland. Near the modern city of Chillicothe, along the banks of the Scioto River, lies what archaeologists consider the ceremonial heart of one of ancient America's most sophisticated cultures. Mound City, now a National Historical Park, preserves 23 earthen burial mounds arranged within a rectangular enclosure, offering our best glimpse into the ritual world of the Hopewell people who flourished here 2,000 years ago. The site's formal name reflects its appearance, a concentration of burial mounds that early explorers compared to a city of earthen buildings. The rectangular enclosure measures approximately 900 by 700 feet, defined by earthen walls that once stood several feet high. Within this sacred precinct, the burial mounds vary in size and shape, some perfectly circular, others elliptical, each one containing multiple burials and extraordinary grave goods. What sets Mound City apart from other archaeological sites is the sheer quality and diversity of artifacts found within the mounds. These aren't simply burial grounds but repositories of artistic achievement that rival anything produced in the ancient world. Copper breastplates hammered from Great Lakes copper, obsidian blades knapped from Yellowstone volcanic glass, pearls from southern rivers, and silver ornaments worked with incredible skill all found their way into these burial chambers. The Hopewell people created a trade network that spanned half the continent, bringing together raw materials from sources thousands of miles apart. Grizzly bear teeth from the Rocky Mountains, shark teeth from the Atlantic coast, mica from the Appalachian Mountains, and conch shells from the Gulf of Mexico all appeared in Mound City burials. This wasn't random trade, but carefully orchestrated exchange that required sophisticated organization and communication across vast distances. Perhaps most remarkable are the pipes found in the mounds, carved in the forms of animals with startling realism. Frogs, birds, bears, and other creatures were sculpted from Ohio pipestone with anatomical accuracy that suggests intimate knowledge of animal behavior. Some pipes incorporate materials from multiple regions, with pipestone bodies inlaid with copper, silver, or pearls, creating objects that were as much art as they were functional items. The burial practices revealed at Mound City suggest complex mortuary rituals that we're only beginning to understand. Most individuals were cremated, their remains placed in specially constructed burial chambers along with grave goods. Some burials included elaborate costumes with copper ornaments, pearl beads, and carved bone tools. Others contained what appear to be ceremonial regalia, including copper ear spools, mica cutouts in geometric shapes, and obsidian ceremonial blades. The mounds themselves weren't built randomly, but followed specific patterns that suggest astronomical or cosmological significance. Some align with cardinal directions, others with solstice or equinox positions. The largest mounds occupy central positions within the enclosure, while smaller ones cluster around the periphery. This organization implies complex ceremonial sequences and possibly hierarchical social relationships. Archaeological investigation has revealed that Mound City wasn't built all at once, but developed over several centuries. Different mounds contain burials spanning multiple generations, and some show evidence of reuse or expansion. Carbon dating suggests the site was most active between 50 BCE and 400 CE, coinciding with the height of Hopewell cultural influence throughout the Ohio Valley. The construction techniques used at Mound City demonstrate sophisticated engineering knowledge. Each mound required careful preparation of the ground surface, construction of burial chambers, using wooden posts and bark coverings, placement of grave goods and cremated remains, then covering with successive layers of earth, sand and clay. Some mounds show evidence of complex internal features, including multiple burial chambers and elaborate drainage systems. What makes Mound City particularly mysterious is the apparent sudden abandonment of the site around 400 CE. The Hopewell trade network collapsed, the elaborate burial practices ceased, and the monumental construction projects ended. Why this happened remains one of archaeology's great puzzles. Climate change, social upheaval, or shifts in religious beliefs might all have played roles, but no single explanation adequately accounts for the dramatic transformation. Modern research at Mound City continues to reveal new aspects of Hopewell culture. Recent excavations have uncovered workshop areas where artisans created the elaborate grave goods, suggesting the site served not only as a cemetery, but as a center for specialized craft production. Analysis of plant and animal remains provides insights into Hopewell subsistence strategies and seasonal ceremonial cycles. The preservation of Mound City as a national park allows ongoing research while protecting these irreplaceable monuments. Each year, new analytical techniques reveal additional information about Hopewell technology, trade relationships, and social organization. Yet the fundamental questions remain unanswered. Who were these master craftspeople and architects? How did they organize such complex societies without written language? And why did their remarkable culture disappear so completely that their descendants retained no memory of these achievements? Chapter 4: Fort, Ancient, the Hilltop Enigma. Perched on a bluff overlooking the Little Miami River Valley in Warren County, Fort, Ancient presents one of Ohio's most puzzling archaeological sites. This massive earthen enclosure stretches for over 3 miles around a hilltop plateau, creating what appears to be an enormous fortification. Yet, despite its fortress-like appearance, most archaeologists now believe Fort Ancient served primarily ceremonial rather than defensive purposes, a conclusion that only deepens the mystery surrounding this monumental construction. The earthworks consist of concentric walls varying in height from 4 to 23 feet. Following the natural contours of the hilltop with remarkable precision, the walls incorporate the terrain so skillfully that in many places they seem like natural features rather than human constructions. 67 openings pierce the walls, some clearly intentional gateways while others might result from later erosion or disturbance. What makes Fort Ancient particularly intriguing is its sheer scale. The enclosed area covers 100 acres, making it one of the largest prehistoric earthworks in North America. Building these walls required moving an estimated over 500,000 cubic yards of earth, a massive undertaking that would have required coordinated labor from hundreds or thousands of people over many years. The site's defensive appearance initially convinced early archaeologists that it represented a fortified town or refuge built during periods of warfare. The name Fort Ancient reflects this interpretation, though it's somewhat misleading since the site predates the Fort Ancient culture by several centuries. The earthworks were actually built by late woodland peoples between 1,000 and 2,000 years ago, during a period when large-scale warfare seems unlikely in the region. Several features challenge the fortress interpretation. Many of the wall openings are too wide to defend effectively, and some occur in positions that would actually aid attackers rather than defenders. The walls show no evidence of palisades or other defensive structures that would be expected in a true fortification. Most tellingly, archaeological excavations have found very little evidence of permanent habitation within the enclosure. Instead, Fort Ancient appears to have served as a ceremonial gathering place where dispersed communities came together for religious celebrations, trade activities, and social events. The hilltop location provided a dramatic setting for large-scale ceremonies visible from great distances across the river valley. The multiple entrances allowed different groups to approach the sacred space along separate pathways, possibly following prescribed ritual routes. Recent archaeological work has identified numerous features within the enclosure that support the ceremonial interpretation. Circular areas show evidence of large fires, possibly for community feasts or ritual burning. Artifact distributions suggest temporary camps where visiting groups stayed during gatherings. Stone circles and post-hole patterns indicate structures that might have served religious or administrative functions. The earthworks incorporate several astronomical alignments that strengthen the ceremonial theory. Certain gateways align with sunrise positions at the solstices and equinoxes, while other features point towards significant lunar positions. These alignments weren't coincidental, but represent deliberate attempts to connect the earthworks with celestial cycles important to the builder's ceremonial calendar. Construction of Fort Ancient required sophisticated planning and organization. The walls maintain consistent profiles, despite following irregular terrain, suggesting the use of standardized building techniques and possibly formal architectural plans. The builders demonstrated remarkable surveying skills, creating gateways and wall segments that align precisely across great distances. Archaeological evidence indicates the site was used intermittently over many centuries, with different periods of intensive activity separated by times of apparent abandonment. This pattern suggests Fort Ancient served seasonal or occasional ceremonial functions rather than supporting permanent populations. The periodic nature of its use might explain why so few artifacts have been found within the enclosure. The monument's relationship to other contemporary earthworks raises additional questions. Fort Ancient shares certain architectural features with other late woodland ceremonial sites, suggesting shared cultural traditions or direct communication between widely separated communities. Yet it also displays unique characteristics that reflect local innovations or adaptations to specific landscape features. Environmental studies at Fort Ancient have revealed interesting patterns of ancient land use. Pollen analysis indicates the hilltop was kept partially clear of forest during the monument's active period, possibly through controlled burning or cultivation. This landscape management would have enhanced the earthworks' visibility while creating open spaces suitable for large gatherings. The site's abandonment remains as mysterious as its original purpose. Sometime around 1,000 years ago, the ceremonial activities ceased, and the earthworks were gradually reclaimed by forest. When the historic Fort Ancient culture settled in the region several centuries later, they apparently had no knowledge of the monument's original builders or purposes, treating it simply as a convenient high ground for their villages. Today, Fort Ancient serves as a museum and archaeological preserve, allowing visitors to walk the ancient walls and contemplate the enormous effort invested in their construction. Modern research continues to reveal new aspects of the site's complex history, but the fundamental questions persist. Why did ancient peoples invest such enormous effort in creating this hilltop monument? How did they organize the massive construction project? And what ceremonies or gatherings were important enough to justify building such an impressive stage for their performance? Chapter 5. Miamisburg Mound, the towering testament, rising 68 feet above the surrounding landscape near Miamisburg. The Great Mound stands as one of the most impressive burial monuments in eastern North America. This massive conical earthwork, attributed to the Adena culture that flourished between 3,000 and 2,000 years ago, represents the pinnacle of ancient mound building achievement in Ohio. Yet despite over a century of archaeological investigation, the mound continues to guard its secrets about the people buried within and the ceremonies that surrounded its construction. The mound's dimensions are truly staggering. Its base diameter measures 877 feet, while the summit platform spans 50 feet across. The structure contains an estimated over 500,000 cubic feet of earth, making it the largest conical burial mound in Ohio and one of the largest anywhere in North America. Creating such a monument required moving countless tons of soil, clay, and stone using only baskets, wooden tools, and human labor. What makes the Miamisburg Mound particularly fascinating is its sophisticated construction technique. Rather than simply piling earth into a heap, the builders created a carefully engineered structure using alternating layers of different materials. Clay, sand, gravel, and topsoil were placed in specific sequences that provided structural stability while creating a monument that has survived nearly 2 millennia with minimal erosion. Archaeological investigations have revealed that the mound wasn't built all at once, but constructed in multiple stages over an extended period. Each building phase involved adding new layers of earth and possibly conducting additional burials or ceremonies. This construction process might have spanned decades or even centuries, with different generations adding to the monument created by their ancestors. The earliest excavations of the mound, conducted in the late 1800s, uncovered evidence of multiple burial chambers within the structure. These contained cremated human remains along with typical Adena grave goods, including copper bracelets, stone tubes, carved bone tools, and projectile points. However, these early investigations were poorly documented by modern standards, leaving many questions about the mound's internal organization unanswered. More recent archaeological work has focused on understanding the mound's external features and relationship to the surrounding landscape. Surveys have identified several smaller mounds and earthworks in the vicinity, suggesting the Great Mound was the centerpiece of a larger ceremonial complex. These associated features include circular earthen enclosures and smaller burial mounds that might have served different functions within the overall site plan. The mound's location appears deliberate rather than accidental. It sits on elevated terrain that provides commanding views in all directions, making it visible from great distances across the Miami Valley. This prominent position would have enhanced its role as a landmark and gathering point for dispersed Adena communities. The builders also took advantage of natural drainage patterns that helped preserve the structure from water damage. Adena culture represents one of the earliest complex societies in the Ohio Valley, characterized by elaborate burial practices, long-distance trade networks, and monumental earthwork construction. The Miamisburg Mound exemplifies these cultural achievements while raising questions about Adena's social organization. Building such a massive monument required coordinating large workforces and accumulating substantial resources, suggesting more complex leadership structures than previously recognized. The grave goods found in Adena mounds, including those at Miamisburg, demonstrate extensive trade connections throughout eastern North America. Copper from the Great Lakes region, shells from the Atlantic coast, and stone materials from various quarries all appeared in Adena burials. This trade network required sophisticated organization and suggests the mound builders maintained contact with distant communities across hundreds of miles. Recent environmental studies around the Miamisburg Mound have provided insights into ancient landscape management practices. Pollen analysis indicates the area was kept partially clear of forest during the mound's active period, possibly through controlled burning or selective clearing. This landscape modification would have enhanced the monument's visibility while creating open spaces suitable for ceremonial gatherings. The mound's astronomical alignments, while less precisely documented than those at other sites, suggest the builders incorporated celestial observations into its design. The summit provides excellent sight lines for tracking sun and moon positions, and some researchers have proposed that the mound served as an observation platform for ancient astronomers. However, without more detailed surveys, these theories remain speculative. Modern preservation efforts at Miamisburg Mound face ongoing challenges from urban development, erosion, and visitor impact. The structure requires constant maintenance to prevent damage from weather and human activity. Archaeological monitoring helps identify potential threats while ensuring that any necessary preservation work doesn't damage buried features. The mound continues to serve as an important symbol for Native American communities, representing the achievements of their ancestors and the continuity of cultural traditions. Modern powwows and ceremonies occasionally take place near the mound, creating connections between contemporary Native peoples and their ancient heritage. Despite extensive study, the Miamisburg Mound retains much of its mystery. We may never know the names or specific identities of the individuals buried within its massive bulk, or fully understand the ceremonies that accompanied its construction. What remains clear is that this monument represents an extraordinary achievement by ancient peoples who invested enormous effort in creating a permanent memorial that continues to inspire wonder and respect 3,000 years after its construction. Chapter 7. Mound Cemetery. Conus, the urban ancient, In the heart of Marietta, where the Muskingum River meets the Ohio, stands one of the most unusual archaeological preservations in North America. The Conus Mound, a 30-foot-high Adena burial monument, rises from the center of a modern cemetery, creating an extraordinary juxtaposition of ancient and contemporary burial practices. This remarkable preservation story highlights both the fragility and resilience of Ohio's archaeological heritage. When European American settlers established Marietta in 1788, they encountered a landscape dotted with numerous earthworks and burial mounds. Most of these ancient monuments were gradually destroyed as the town expanded, their earth removed for building projects or their locations claimed for modern development. The survival of the Conus Mound represents both fortunate circumstances and deliberate preservation choices that allow us to experience an authentic piece of ancient America within a thoroughly modern setting. The mound itself exemplifies classic Adena construction techniques and burial practices. Built approximately 2,000 years ago, it originally served as a burial place for members of the local Adena community. Archaeological investigations conducted in the early 20th century revealed multiple burial chambers within the mound, containing cremated human remains, along with typical Adena grave goods, including copper ornaments, stone tools, and exotic materials obtained through long-distance trade. What makes the Conus Mound particularly fascinating is its integration into Marietta's Mound Cemetery, established in 1835. Rather than destroying the ancient monument, the cemetery's founders chose to incorporate it into their burial ground, creating a unique blend of prehistoric and historic mortuary practices. Modern graves surround the base of the ancient mound, while the summit remains undisturbed as a monument to the area's first inhabitants. This preservation approach reflects changing attitudes toward Native American monuments during the 19th century. Early European American settlers often viewed mounds and earthworks as obstacles to development or sources of building materials. However, as awareness grew of their archaeological significance, some communities made efforts to preserve important monuments. Marietta's decision to protect the Conus Mound within a cemetery represented an early example of archaeological preservation in the Ohio Valley. The mound's urban setting has created both opportunities and challenges for archaeological research. Its protection within the cemetery has prevented the destruction that claimed most other Marietta area earthworks, allowing modern researchers to study an intact Adena monument. However, the surrounding graves and urban development limit the scope of possible investigations, making comprehensive archaeological study difficult. Recent research has focused on understanding the mound's relationship to other ancient features in the Marietta area. Historical maps and archaeological surveys indicate the Conus Mound was part of a larger complex of earthworks that once covered much of the river confluence area. These included defensive earthworks, additional burial mounds, and geometric enclosures that together formed one of the Ohio Valley's most impressive archaeological landscapes. The Adena people who built the Conus Mound chose its location carefully. The elevated terrace overlooking the river confluence provided natural drainage for the mound while creating a prominent landmark visible from water approaches. This strategic positioning suggests the mound served not only as a burial place, but also as a territorial marker or ceremonial center for the local community. Environmental analysis around the mound has revealed evidence of ancient landscape modification. Pollen studies indicate the area was kept partially clear of forest during the Adena period, possibly through controlled burning or selective clearing. This landscape management would have enhanced the mound's visibility while creating open spaces suitable for ceremonial activities or community gatherings. The artifacts recovered from the Conus Mound demonstrate the typical Adena pattern of extensive trade connections and sophisticated craftsmanship. Copper ornaments made from Great Lakes copper, mica cutouts from Appalachian sources, and marine shell beads from distant coastal areas all appeared in the burials. These exotic materials required complex trade networks that connected Ohio Valley communities with sources hundreds of miles away. The burial practices revealed at the Conus Mound provide insights into Adena social organization and religious beliefs. Most individuals were cremated, and their remains placed in bark-lined pits within the mound structure. Some burials included rich assemblages of grave goods, while others contained few or no artifacts, suggesting social differentiation within Adena communities. The pattern implies some form of ranking system, though its exact nature remains unclear. Modern visitors to Mound Cemetery can walk around the base of the ancient monument and climb wooden steps to its summit, experiencing direct contact with a 2,000-year-old construction. Interpretive signs provide information about Adena culture and the mound's significance, helping contemporary audiences understand the achievement represented by this ancient earthwork. The Conus Mound's survival in an urban setting raises important questions about archaeological preservation and cultural continuity. How do we balance respect for ancient monuments with the needs of modern communities? What responsibilities do contemporary Americans bear for protecting the heritage of the continent's first inhabitants? Mode's integration into a modern cemetery suggests one answer: creating a shared space where different burial traditions coexist across millennia. Recent preservation efforts have focused on protecting the mound from erosion and visitor impact, while maintaining its accessibility for education and research. Careful monitoring ensures that any necessary maintenance work doesn't damage buried archaeological features, while ongoing research continues to reveal new information about Adena culture and the ancient history of the Ohio Valley. The Conus Mound stands as a testament to both ancient achievement and modern preservation consciousness. Its creators invested enormous effort in building a permanent memorial for their deceased, while later generations made deliberate choices to protect that memorial for future study and appreciation. This continuity of purpose across 2 millennia creates a powerful connection between past and present that few archaeological sites can match. Chapter 8: Seip Earthworks, the Circle of Mysteries. Along Paint Creek in Ross County, the Seip Earthworks represent one of the most impressive and puzzling monuments created by the Hopewell culture. This massive ceremonial complex, dominated by a great circular enclosure nearly 1,800 feet in diameter, challenges our understanding of prehistoric engineering capabilities and social organization. Despite extensive archaeological investigation, the site continues to pose fundamental questions about the people who invested enormous effort in creating this monumental landscape. The Seip complex originally consisted of multiple interconnected features spread across several hundred acres of river-bottom land. The Great Circle formed the centerpiece, its earthen walls rising 8 to 10 feet above the surrounding terrain and enclosing an area of over 60 acres. Within this circle stood a large central mound, carefully positioned at the geometric center of the enclosure. Additional smaller mounds and geometric earthworks surrounded the Great Circle, creating an integrated ceremonial landscape of remarkable scope and sophistication. What makes Seip particularly mysterious is the precision of its construction. The Great Circle maintains nearly perfect roundness despite its enormous size, deviating from true circularity by only a few feet anywhere along its circumference. Creating such precision without modern surveying equipment required sophisticated mathematical knowledge and careful planning. The builders somehow managed to stake out a perfect circle over 1/3 of a mile in diameter using only simple tools and geometric principles we can only guess at. The central mound within the Great Circle adds another layer of complexity to the site. This structure, rebuilt by archaeologists using original materials after early excavations disturbed it, originally stood over 30 feet high and contained multiple burial chambers. The mound's positioning at the exact center of the circular enclosure wasn't coincidental, but reflected careful geometric planning that integrated architecture with landscape on a monumental scale. Archaeological excavations at Seip have revealed some of the most spectacular Hopewell artifacts ever discovered. The central mound contained burials accompanied by extraordinary grave goods, including copper breastplates, obsidian blades, pearl beads, and elaborate headdresses made from exotic materials. One burial included over 200 pounds of obsidian, volcanic glass, transported from sources over 2,000 miles away in Yellowstone. The sheer quantity of this exotic material suggests the individual held extraordinary status within Hopewell society. The construction of Seip required moving millions of cubic feet of earth, all accomplished without metal tools, wheeled vehicles, or draft animals. Workers used wooden digging sticks, stone tools, and baskets to excavate soil from borrow pits and transport it to construction areas. The scale of this undertaking implies either large permanent populations or periodic gatherings where dispersed communities contributed labor to monumental building projects. Recent research has revealed that Seip wasn't built all at once, but developed over several centuries during the height of Hopewell cultural influence. Different construction phases show varying techniques and orientations, suggesting evolving ceremonial practices or changing leadership within the communities that maintain the site. This long construction history raises intriguing questions about how building knowledge and architectural plans were transmitted across generations without written records. The site's relationship to astronomical phenomena adds another dimension to its mystery. The Great Circle's orientation aligns with certain celestial events, while sight lines from the central mound provide views of horizon positions significant to ancient sky watchers. However, unlike some other Hopewell sites, Seip's astronomical alignments are less clearly defined, leaving room for debate about the builder's intentions and knowledge of celestial cycles. Environmental studies around Seip have provided insights into ancient landscape management and subsistence practices. The Hopewell people maintained the site's ceremonial areas through selective clearing and controlled burning, creating open spaces suitable for large gatherings while preserving nearby forest resources. Analysis of plant and animal remains suggests seasonal occupation, with different types of ceremonies occurring at various times throughout the year. The elaborate grave goods found at Seip demonstrate the far-reaching trade networks that characterized Hopewell culture. Raw materials from across North America were transformed into ceremonial objects of remarkable artistry and technical skill. Copper from the Great Lakes was hammered into breastplates and headdresses. Marine shells from the Gulf Coast became gorgets and beads, and mica from the Appalachians was cut into geometric shapes whose purposes remain mysterious. Modern preservation efforts at Seip face ongoing challenges from agricultural activities, development pressure, and natural erosion. The reconstructed central mound provides visitors with a sense of the site's original appearance, while museum exhibits display some of the spectacular artifacts found during excavations. However, much of the original earthwork complex has been damaged or destroyed, making comprehensive understanding of the site's full extent and organization difficult. The question of who built Seip and why remains central to understanding Hopewell culture more broadly. The massive investment of labor and resources suggests highly organized societies capable of coordinating complex projects across generations. Yet the apparent abandonment of such sites around 1600 years ago indicates dramatic cultural changes that archaeology has yet to fully explain. Today, visitors to Seip can walk the reconstructed portions of the Great Circle and climb the rebuilt central mound, experiencing something approaching the original monument's impressive scale. The site continues to serve as a focus for archaeological research and Native American cultural activities, maintaining connections between contemporary peoples and their ancient heritage that span nearly 2 millennia. Chapter 9. High Bank Works, the Geometric Riddles. West of Chillicothe, where Paint Creek winds through the Ross County landscape, the High Bank Works present one of the most geometrically complex earthwork sites in Ohio. This Hopewell ceremonial center features an intricate arrangement of circles, octagons, and connecting walls that demonstrate mathematical precision rivaling modern engineering. Yet despite their obvious sophistication, these geometric earthworks continue to puzzle archaeologists about their specific purposes and the knowledge systems that guided their construction. The High Bank complex originally covered over 100 acres, with multiple interconnected geometric enclosures. The most prominent features included a large circle nearly 1,100 feet in diameter, connected to a regular octagon by parallel walls extending for several hundred feet. Additional smaller circles and geometric figures completed the complex, creating an integrated landscape of earthen monuments that must have presented an awe-inspiring sight to ancient visitors. What makes High Bank particularly intriguing is the recurring geometric themes found at multiple Hopewell sites across Ohio. The combination of circles and octagons appears at Newark, Seip, Hopeton, and other major ceremonial centers, suggesting these shapes held specific symbolic or functional significance within Hopewell culture. The repetition of these patterns across sites separated by many miles implies shared architectural traditions and possibly standardized ceremonial practices. The octagonal enclosures at High Bank and other sites demonstrate remarkable mathematical sophistication. Creating a regular octagon requires understanding geometric principles that weren't formally codified in European mathematics until much later periods. Each side of the High Bank octagon measures approximately 540 feet, with angles precisely calculated to create perfect geometric regularity. This precision suggests the Hopewell possessed advanced mathematical knowledge and sophisticated surveying techniques. Archaeological investigations at High Bank have revealed evidence of diverse ceremonial activities within the geometric enclosures. The circular areas show signs of large fires, possibly for community feasts or ritual burning of offerings. Artifact distributions suggest temporary camps where visitors stayed during ceremonies, while certain areas appear to have served specialized functions related to specific ritual activities or seasonal celebrations. The construction of High Bank required sophisticated planning and coordination among dispersed Hopewell communities. Building the earthworks involved moving hundreds of thousands of cubic feet of soil, coordinating work crews, and maintaining consistent architectural standards across the entire complex. This level of organization implies centralized leadership and shared cultural traditions that could motivate communities to invest enormous effort in monumental construction. Recent research has focused on understanding the astronomical alignments incorporated into High Bank's design. Like other Hopewell geometric earthworks, certain features align with significant positions of the Sun and Moon, particularly the complex 18.6-year lunar cycle. These alignments weren't accidental, but represent deliberate attempts to connect earthen architecture with celestial phenomena, important to Hopewell cosmology and ceremonial calendar. The relationship between High Bank's geometric forms and contemporary mathematical knowledge raises fascinating questions about indigenous science and engineering. The octagon's precise angles and the circle's perfect curvature required sophisticated understanding of geometric principles. How did Hopewell architects acquire this knowledge? Did they develop mathematical concepts independently, or did they inherit traditions from earlier cultures? Environmental analysis around High Bank has revealed patterns of ancient landscape modification that enhance the site's ceremonial functions. The Hopewell people maintained open areas around the earthworks through controlled burning and selective clearing, creating dramatic vistas that emphasize the monument's geometric perfection. These cleared areas also provided space for large gatherings and ceremonial activities that might have drawn participants from across the region. The grave goods and ceremonial deposits found at High Bank reflect the typical Hopewell pattern of exotic materials and skilled craftsmanship. Copper ornaments, obsidian blades, pearl beads, and carved stone pipes demonstrate the far-reaching trade networks and specialized artisans that supported Hopewell's ceremonial life. These objects weren't simply valuable possessions but sacred items that played specific roles in religious and social ceremonies. Modern preservation challenges at High Bank include ongoing erosion, agricultural damage, and development pressure that threaten the surviving earthwork remnants. Unlike some other major Hopewell sites, High Bank lacks comprehensive protection as a park or preserve, making long-term conservation uncertain. Archaeological monitoring helps identify threats to buried features while documenting the site's current condition for future research. The question of what ceremonies took place within High Bank's geometric enclosures remains largely unanswered. The sites clearly served important functions within Hopewell society, drawing participants from across the Ohio Valley for periodic gatherings. These might have included seasonal festivals, trade fairs, religious ceremonies, or social events that reinforce cultural connections among dispersed communities. The mathematical precision of high bank and similar sites challenges assumptions about prehistoric capabilities and knowledge systems. These monuments demonstrate that sophisticated geometric understanding existed in North America 2,000 years ago, developed and applied by indigenous peoples using their own cultural frameworks and educational traditions. This achievement deserves recognition alongside geometric accomplishments from other world cultures of similar antiquity. Today, portions of high bank works survive as archaeological sites that continue to yield information about Hopewell culture and engineering capabilities. Each new investigation reveals additional details about construction techniques, ceremonial practices, and the knowledge systems that guided these remarkable achievements. Yet the fundamental mysteries persist, ensuring that these geometric riddles continue challenging our understanding of ancient American capabilities. Chapter 10. Hopeton Earthworks, the Fading Grandeur. Near Chillicothe, where the Scioto River creates fertile bottomlands perfect for ancient ceremonies, the Hopeton Earthworks once formed one of Ohio's most impressive Hopewell complexes. Today, agricultural activities and natural erosion have claimed much of this monumental site, leaving only fragments of what was once a vast ceremonial landscape. The partial loss of Hopeton makes it both more mysterious and more poignant, representing the countless archaeological sites that have disappeared before modern preservation efforts could protect them. Historical surveys conducted in the 1800s documented Hopeton's original extent and complexity. The earthworks included a large circular enclosure over 1,000 feet in diameter, connected to a massive square measuring approximately 1,800 feet on each side. Parallel walls extended between these geometric forms, while additional smaller enclosures and burial mounds completed the ceremonial complex. The total area covered by earthworks exceeded 300 acres, making Hopeton one of the largest prehistoric monuments in North America. What made Hopeton particularly remarkable was the precision of its geometric forms despite their enormous scale. The circular enclosure maintained nearly perfect roundness, while the square's corners formed precise right angles, and its sides ran perfectly straight for nearly a third of a mile each. Creating such accuracy over vast distances required sophisticated surveying techniques and mathematical knowledge that challenges conventional assumptions about prehistoric capabilities. Archaeological excavations at Hopeton during the late 1800s and early 1900s revealed typical Hopewell burial practices and artifact assemblages. The site contained multiple burial mounds with cremated remains accompanied by elaborate grave goods, including copper ornaments, obsidian blades, pearl beads, and carved stone pipes. These discoveries confirmed Hopeton's importance as a major ceremonial center during the height of Hopewell cultural influence between 2,000 and 1,600 years ago. The earthworks' original construction required moving millions of cubic feet of soil using only human labor and simple tools. Workers excavated material from carefully planned borrow areas, then transported it in baskets to construction sites where specialized crews built the walls according to predetermined designs. The coordination required for such massive undertakings implies highly organized societies capable of mobilizing large workforces for extended construction projects. Recent research has focused on understanding Hopeton's astronomical alignments and their significance within Hopewell cosmology. Like other major geometric earthworks, certain features at Hopeton align with important celestial events, including solstices, equinoxes, and lunar cycle extremes. These alignments weren't coincidental, but represent deliberate attempts to connect earthen architecture with sky phenomena that played important roles in Hopewell's ceremonial calendar and religious beliefs. The site's relationship to other Hopewell earthworks raises intriguing questions about regional ceremonial networks and cultural communication. Hopeton shares geometric themes with Newark, High Bank, Seip, and other major sites, suggesting either direct contact between the communities that built them or shared cultural traditions transmitted across the Hopewell world. The repetition of specific architectural elements implies standardized ceremonial practices and possibly formal training systems for earthwork architects. Environmental studies at Hopeton have revealed evidence of ancient landscape management that enhanced the site's ceremonial functions. Pollen analysis indicates the areas around earthworks were kept partially clear of forest through controlled burning and selective harvesting, creating open spaces suitable for large gatherings while maintaining nearby woodland resources. This active landscape management demonstrates sophisticated understanding of ecological relationships and long-term planning. The artifacts recovered from Hopeton demonstrate the typical Hopewell pattern of extensive trade networks and skilled craftsmanship. Raw materials from across North America were transformed into ceremonial objects of remarkable beauty and technical sophistication. Copper from the Great Lakes became elaborate headdresses and breastplates, while obsidian from Yellowstone was napped into ceremonial blades whose edges were sharper than modern surgical steel. Modern preservation challenges at Hopeton highlight the ongoing threats facing Ohio's archaeological heritage. The agricultural activities have damaged or destroyed most of the original earthworks, while urban development continues to encroach on surviving portions. Only small sections of the original complex remain intact, protected as archaeological preserves that provide glimpses of the site's former grandeur. Today, visitors to the surviving portions of Hopeton can still experience something of the site's original impact. Walking along the remnants of earthen walls and standing within the geometric enclosures provides direct contact with monuments created by ancient architects, whose vision and skill rivaled any contemporary achievements. These fragments serve as windows into a sophisticated prehistoric world that flourished in Ohio long before European contact. The story of Hopeton reminds us that archaeological sites are irreplaceable resources that once lost cannot be recovered. The earthworks represented generations of labor and cultural investment by Hopewell communities, creating monuments that served as focal points for their ceremonial and social life. Their partial destruction represents not just archaeological loss, but the disappearance of irreplaceable chapters in the human story of Ohio's ancient past. Chapter 11, Fort Hill, the Highland Sanctuary. High atop a ridge in Highland County, Fort Hill presents one of Ohio's most dramatically situated and best preserved ancient earthworks. This massive hilltop enclosure, with its earthen and stone walls following the natural contours of a steep-sided plateau, offers visitors an experience unlike any other prehistoric site in the state. The monument's remote location and excellent preservation allow modern visitors to walk in the footsteps of ancient peoples and contemplate the enormous effort invested in creating this highland sanctuary. The Fort Hill earthworks consist of earthen and stone walls extending for nearly 1.5 miles around the perimeter of a 48-acre hilltop plateau. The walls vary in height from 3 to 15 feet, incorporating natural cliff faces where possible and bridging gaps with carefully constructed embankments. 33 openings in the walls provide access to the interior, though determining which were original gateways versus later erosion gaps remains challenging. What makes Fort Hill particularly mysterious is its location and apparent purpose. Unlike valley bottom ceremonial centers like Newark or Hopeton, Fort Hill occupies a remote, defensible position that suggests different functions or social contexts. The hilltop setting provides commanding views across the surrounding countryside while creating a natural fortress that could have served defensive purposes if necessary. The monument's construction demonstrates sophisticated engineering adapted to challenging terrain. The builders skillfully incorporated natural features into their design, using cliff faces as ready-made walls while constructing elaborate embankments to complete the enclosure where terrain required it. This adaptive approach suggests experienced architects familiar with both earthwork construction and military engineering principles. Archaeological evidence indicates Fort Hill was built by late woodland peoples sometime between 1,000 and 2,000 years ago, contemporary with the later phases of Hopewell culture development. However, the site's architectural style differs significantly from typical Hopewell geometric earthworks, suggesting either different cultural traditions or specialized functions that required fortress-like construction. The interior of Fort Hill has yielded relatively few artifacts compared to major Hopewell ceremonial centers, raising questions about how the site was used and by whom. Some areas show evidence of temporary occupation, possibly by visitors during periodic gatherings, while others appear to have remained largely unused. This pattern suggests Fort Hill served specialized functions that didn't require permanent habitation or intensive ceremonial activity. Recent research has focused on understanding Fort Hill's relationship to contemporary sites and regional settlement patterns. The monument's hilltop position would have made it visible from great distances, serving as a landmark and possibly a signal station for coordinating activities across the region. Its defensive capabilities might have provided refuge during periods of social stress, though evidence for such use remains limited. The construction of Fort Hill required coordinating large workforces and transporting massive amounts of stone and earth to the hilltop location. Unlike valley bottom sites, where materials could be obtained locally, Fort Hill's builders had to carry construction materials up steep slopes and across difficult terrain. This extra effort suggests the hilltop location was considered essential for the monument's purposes. Environmental studies at Fort Hill have revealed evidence of ancient landscape management that enhance both defensive and ceremonial functions. The builders maintained clear sight lines by removing forest from strategic areas while preserving woodland cover where it provided natural camouflage or protection. This selective landscape modification demonstrates sophisticated understanding of both military tactics and ecological relationships. The site's astronomical alignments, while less precisely documented than those at geometric Hopewell Earthworks, suggest the builders incorporated celestial observations into their planning. Certain wall segments and gateway positions align with significant sun and moon positions, indicating that Fort Hill served ceremonial as well as defensive functions. These dual purposes might explain the site's unique architectural character. Modern visitors to Fort Hill can walk the ancient walls and experience the monument much as its builders intended. The hilltop position provides spectacular views across Highland County's rolling landscape, while the well-preserved earthworks maintain their impressive scale and sophisticated construction. Interpretive trails help visitors understand both the monument's construction techniques and its possible functions. Fort Hill's excellent preservation and dramatic setting make it one of Ohio's most evocative prehistoric sites. Standing within its ancient walls, surrounded by earthworks that have endured for over a millennium, visitors can feel direct connections to the peoples who created this highland sanctuary. The monument serves as both archaeological treasure and spiritual landscape, preserving not just ancient construction techniques, but something of the vision and purpose that motivated its creation. The mystery of Fort Hill lies not just in its original purpose, but in the dedication of ancient peoples to create something permanent and meaningful in this remote highland setting. Their achievement continues to inspire wonder and respect, ensuring that this mountaintop monument remains one of Ohio's most cherished archaeological treasures. Chapter 12: Glenford Fort, the Stone Circle Mystery. In the rolling hills of Musking County, near the small community of Glenford, stands one of Ohio's most unusual prehistoric monuments. The Glenford Fort combines earthwork construction with stone masonry in ways rarely seen elsewhere in the state, creating a hilltop enclosure that challenges conventional understanding of late woodland architectural traditions. This unique blend of materials and techniques has made the site a subject of ongoing archaeological debate and speculation. The Glenford Fort occupies a naturally defensible hilltop position, with stone and earth walls encircling an area of approximately 40 acres. What sets this monument apart from other Ohio earthworks is its extensive use of stone construction, featuring carefully laid walls of sandstone blocks that demonstrate sophisticated masonry skills. These stone walls average 4 to 6 feet in height and are built without mortar, relying instead on precise fitting and gravity for structural stability. The most intriguing feature of the Glenford Fort is a central stone mound or cairn that rises from the highest point within the enclosure. This structure, built entirely of stacked stone without mortar, measures roughly 30 feet in diameter at its base and originally stood 8 to 10 feet high. The mound's construction technique and positioning suggest it served important ceremonial or observational functions within the overall site design. Archaeological investigations at Glenford Fort have revealed construction techniques that appear unique in the Ohio Valley. The stone walls incorporate both dry stone masonry methods and earthwork building traditions, creating hybrid structures that combine the advantages of both approaches. This architectural synthesis suggests either innovative local development or influence from cultures outside the typical late woodland tradition. The site's dating remains somewhat controversial among archaeologists. While most evidence points to construction during the late woodland period, roughly 1,000 to 1,500 years ago, some features might be earlier or later. The stone construction techniques don't match typical patterns seen at contemporary earthworks, making cultural attribution and chronological placement challenging. What makes Glenford Fort particularly mysterious is its apparent isolation from other similar sites. While Ohio contains numerous hilltop earthworks, none others combine extensive stone masonry with earthwork construction in quite the same way. This uniqueness raises questions about the cultural identity of the builders and their relationship to other late woodland groups throughout the region. The monument's defensive capabilities are more obvious than those of many other Ohio earthworks. The hilltop position, stone walls, and limited access points all suggest the builders were concerned with creating a fortified refuge. However, archaeological evidence for actual defensive use remains limited, leaving open the possibility that the fortress-like appearance served primarily symbolic or ceremonial purposes. Recent research has focused on understanding the quarrying and transportation methods used to bring stone to the hilltop location. The sandstone blocks used in construction were obtained from local outcrops, but moving them to the building site would have required significant labor and possibly specialized techniques for handling heavy materials. This logistical challenge adds to the overall mystery of how the monument was constructed. Environmental analysis around Glenford Fort has revealed evidence of ancient landscape modification that enhance both defensive and ceremonial functions. The builders cleared sightlines from the hilltop while maintaining forest cover in strategic areas, demonstrating sophisticated understanding of both military considerations and natural resource management. The central stone mound presents particular puzzles about its original function and significance. Unlike typical burial mounds, it shows no clear evidence of containing human remains or grave goods. Instead, it might have served as an observation platform, ceremonial altar, or symbolic representation of sacred mountains or other cosmological features important to the builder's worldview. The site's astronomical alignments, while not as precisely documented as those at major Hopewell earthworks, suggest the builders incorporated celestial observations into their planning. Certain wall segments and the central mound's orientation appear to align with significant sun and moon positions, indicating astronomical knowledge played a role in the monument's design. Modern preservation of Glenford Fort faces unique challenges related to its stone construction. While earthworks primarily suffer from erosion and plowing damage, stone walls face additional threats from freeze-thaw cycles, vegetation growth, and human disturbance. Maintaining the site's integrity requires specialized conservation approaches that address both earthwork and masonry preservation needs. The mystery of Glenford Fort lies in its architectural uniqueness and the questions it raises about prehistoric cultural diversity and innovation. The site demonstrates that Ohio's ancient peoples developed varied solutions to monumental construction challenges, creating buildings that reflected both practical needs and spiritual aspirations. This architectural achievement continues to challenge our understanding of prehistoric capabilities and cultural complexity. Chapter 13. Leo Petroglyphs, Secret Stone Messages. Hidden within a forest preserve in Jackson County, the Leo Petroglyphs present some of Ohio's most enigmatic rock art, carved into a sandstone outcrop along a quiet creek. These ancient images offer tantalizing glimpses into the symbolic world of prehistoric peoples. The petroglyphs feature human figures, animals, footprints, and abstract designs that have puzzled researchers for decades, their meanings as mysterious today as when they were first documented over a century ago. The Leo site contains approximately 100 individual petroglyphs scattered across several sandstone panels along Leo Creek. The images range from simple cupules, small circular depressions, to complex human figures and elaborate geometric designs. Some petroglyphs appear to be single, isolated images, while others form apparent compositions that might represent related scenes or stories. Among the most intriguing images are the human figures, depicted in various poses and styles that suggest different time periods or cultural traditions. Some figures appear naturalistic with clear anatomical features, while others are highly stylized or abstracted. Several human figures seem to be engaged in activities, possibly dancing, hunting, or conducting ceremonies, though interpreting specific actions remains challenging. Animal depictions at Leo include what appear to be birds, quadrupeds that might represent deer or other mammals, and various creatures that are difficult to identify with certainty. The animal figures show varying levels of artistic skill and naturalistic detail, suggesting they were created by different individuals or during different time periods. Some animals appear alone, while others seem to interact with human figures or geometric designs. The geometric and abstract symbols at Leo present particular challenges for interpretation. Circles, lines, crosshatches, and various curvilinear designs appear throughout the panels, sometimes in apparent association with representational figures. These symbols might represent astronomical phenomena, territorial markers, clan insignia, or religious concepts that we can no longer decode without cultural context from their creators. Dating rock art presents significant challenges since organic materials suitable for radiocarbon analysis are rarely preserved in association with petroglyphs. Based on style comparisons with dated rock art elsewhere and archaeological context from the surrounding region, the Leo petroglyphs were likely created sometime between 500 and 1500 years ago during the late woodland or early late prehistoric periods. The techniques used to create the Leo petroglyphs involved pecking and grinding the sandstone surface using harder stone tools. This process gradually wore away the rock face to create depressions of varying depth and texture. Some images show evidence of multiple episodes of reworking or repecking, suggesting they were maintained or modified over time by successive generations. The location of the Leo petroglyphs along Leo Creek wasn't chosen randomly, but reflects careful site selection by ancient artists. The sandstone outcrop provides a natural canvas that's protected from severe weathering while remaining accessible to human visitors. The creek setting might have held special significance related to water symbolism or served as a natural gathering place for ceremonies or social events. Environmental analysis around the Leo site has revealed evidence of long-term human presence in the area. Archaeological surveys have identified campsites, tool-making areas, and other activity areas that suggest the petroglyph panels were part of a larger cultural landscape used repeatedly over many generations. This pattern implies the rock art held continuing significance rather than representing single-episode creations. Recent documentation efforts at Leo have employed advanced photographic techniques to record the petroglyphs in detail before further weathering obscures them. Digital enhancement reveals previously unnoticed images and provides clear records for future research. These efforts have identified several previously unknown petroglyphs and clarified details of others that were difficult to see with traditional documentation methods. The preservation challenges facing the Leo petroglyphs are typical of rock art sites throughout Ohio. Natural weathering, vandalism, and environmental changes all threaten these irreplaceable cultural resources. The sandstone's relatively soft nature makes it particularly vulnerable to damage from both natural processes and human interference. Protection efforts focus on limiting access while maintaining opportunities for research and education. Interpretation of the Leo petroglyphs remains highly speculative due to the absence of ethnographic information from descendant communities and the inherent ambiguity of symbolic art divorced from its cultural context. Various researchers have proposed explanations ranging from hunting magic to astronomical calendars to territorial markers, but none can be definitively proven without additional cultural information. The relationship between Leo and other Ohio rock art sites raises questions about regional artistic traditions and cultural communication. Similarities in style and subject matter between Leo and other petroglyph sites suggest shared symbolic systems or cultural contact between different groups. However, determining specific relationships requires additional research and careful comparative analysis. Modern Native American communities view the Leo petroglyphs as ancestral heritage that deserves respect and protection. While specific tribal connections to the site remain unclear, the rock art represents an important link to the cultural traditions of Ohio's indigenous peoples. This contemporary significance adds layers of meaning to preservation efforts and research activities. Recent research has focused on documenting the full extent of rock art at Leo and understanding its relationship to other cultural activities in the area. Ground-penetrating radar and careful excavation around the petroglyph panels have revealed additional archaeological features that provide context for understanding how the site was used by ancient peoples. The Leo petroglyphs continue to fascinate visitors and researchers alike. Their mysterious imagery and forest setting create an atmosphere of ancient spirituality that connects modern viewers with prehistoric artistic traditions, yet their true meanings remain locked in stone, waiting for new discoveries or analytical techniques that might unlock their ancient messages. Today, the Leo Petroglyph State Memorial provides protection for these remarkable cultural treasures while allowing limited public access for education and inspiration. The site serves as a reminder that Ohio's prehistoric peoples created not only monumental earthworks, but also intimate artistic expressions that reveal something of their inner lives and spiritual concerns. Chapter 14. Inscription Rock, the Island Enigma. On Kelly's Island in Lake Erie, a massive limestone slab bears one of the most extensive collections of petroglyphs in the Great Lakes region. Known as Inscription Rock, this remarkable monument preserves hundreds of carved figures and symbols that have captivated visitors and puzzled researchers for over 2 centuries. The rock's lakeside location and dense concentration of imagery make it unique among Ohio's archaeological sites, while its complex history of discovery, damage, and preservation illustrates the challenges facing ancient rock art throughout the region. The Inscription Rock measures approximately 32 feet long by 21 feet wide, with its surface covered by an estimated 400 individual petroglyphs. The images include human figures in various poses, animals both recognizable and fantastic, geometric designs, and abstract symbols that defy easy interpretation. The density of imagery suggests the rock served as an important cultural site over an extended period, with successive generations adding their own contributions to the growing artistic record. Among the most striking images are the human figures, depicted in a variety of styles and poses that suggest different artistic traditions or time periods. Some figures appear naturalistic, with clear anatomical details, while others are highly stylized or abstract. Many human figures seem to be engaged in activities, possibly dancing, hunting, or conducting ceremonies, though determining specific actions from the petroglyphs alone remains challenging. Animal depictions on Inscription Rock include recognizable creatures like birds, fish, and mammals, as well as more mysterious beings that might represent mythological creatures or spiritual entities. The variety of animal forms suggests the rock artists drew inspiration from both the natural world around them and supernatural beliefs that we can no longer fully understand without cultural context from their creators. The geometric and abstract symbols scattered throughout the petroglyph panels present particular puzzles for interpretation. Circles, spirals, crosshatches, and various curvilinear designs appear alone and in apparent combinations with representational figures. These symbols might represent astronomical phenomena, clan markers, territorial boundaries, or religious concepts that formed part of complex belief systems we can only guess at today. Dating the Inscription Rock petroglyphs presents the usual challenges associated with rock art analysis. Based on style comparisons and archaeological context, most researchers believe the majority of images were created during the late woodland period, roughly 500 to 1500 years ago. However, some symbols might be earlier or later, representing a palimpsest of artistic activity spanning several centuries or even millennia. The techniques used to create the Inscription Rock petroglyphs involved pecking and grinding the limestone surface using harder stone tools. This process gradually wore away the rock face to create depressions and lines that formed the various images. The limestone's relatively soft nature made it easier to carve than harder rock types, but also made the finished petroglyphs more vulnerable to weathering and damage. The location of Inscription Rock on Kelly's Island wasn't chosen randomly, but reflects the cultural significance of islands and water in indigenous belief systems. Islands often held special meaning as liminal spaces between earthly and spiritual realms, while large bodies of water like Lake Erie served as highways for travel and communication between distant communities. The rock's position near the shoreline made it accessible to waterborne travelers, while providing a prominent location for artistic display. The history of Inscription Rock, after European contact, illustrates both the fascination these ancient artworks inspired and the damage they suffered from well-meaning but misguided attempts at preservation and study. Early researchers made plaster casts and rubbings that damaged the soft limestone surface, while souvenir hunters chipped away pieces of the rock. Later attempts at preservation, including moving the rock indoors, may have prevented further damage, but also removed it from its original landscape context. Recent documentation efforts have employed advanced techniques to record the petroglyphs in unprecedented detail. Three-dimensional scanning creates precise digital records that preserve information about carving techniques and weathering patterns, while enhanced photography reveals previously unnoticed images and clarifies details of known petroglyphs. These efforts provide crucial records as the limestone continues to deteriorate despite protection efforts. The interpretation of Inscription Rock's imagery remains highly speculative due to the complex mix of symbols and the absence of clear cultural context. Various researchers have proposed explanations ranging from astronomical calendars to religious narratives to territorial markers, but the rock's true significance likely incorporated multiple layers of meaning that we can no longer fully appreciate. Today, Inscription Rock serves as both archaeological treasure and educational resource, helping modern audiences appreciate the artistic achievements of Ohio's indigenous peoples. The rock's preservation within Kelly's Island State Park ensures ongoing protection while providing opportunities for research and public interpretation. Yet the fundamental mysteries remain, the true meanings of its hundreds of images locked in stone, waiting for new discoveries that might illuminate the minds and spirits of their ancient creators. Chapter 15. Barnesville Track Rocks, The Footprint Chronicles. In the quiet countryside of Belmont County, near the small town of Barnesville, a remarkable sandstone outcrop preserves one of Ohio's most intriguing collections of ancient rock art. The Track Rocks, as they've become known, feature dozens of petroglyphs dominated by what appear to be human and animal footprints, along with faces, abstract designs, and mysterious symbols that have puzzled researchers for generations. This compact but dense concentration of rock art offers intimate glimpses into the symbolic world of prehistoric peoples. The Barnesville petroglyphs cover several connected sandstone surfaces along a small creek, creating a natural gallery of ancient art that spans multiple rock faces and horizontal surfaces. The total number of individual images approaches 100, making this one of the most extensive rock art sites in eastern Ohio. The petroglyphs vary dramatically in size, style, and apparent age, suggesting multiple episodes of creation spanning several centuries or even millennia. The most distinctive feature of the Track Rocks is the abundance of footprint, like images that give the site its name. These range from clear representations of human feet, complete with toe marks, to more abstract track shapes that might represent various animals. Some footprint petroglyphs appear to form trails across the rock surfaces, as if recording actual journeys or ceremonial processions that took place at the site. Among the most compelling images are the human faces, carved with varying degrees of skill and naturalistic detail. Some faces show clear features including eyes, noses, and mouths, while others are more stylized or abstract. The faces display different expressions and orientations, suggesting they might represent specific individuals, spiritual beings, or symbolic concepts rather than generic human depictions. Animal representations at the track rocks include what appear to be birds, quadrupeds, and various creatures that are difficult to identify with certainty. Some animal figures seem to interact with the human tracks and faces, creating apparent narratives or symbolic relationships that we can no longer fully interpret without cultural context from their creators. The geometric and abstract designs scattered throughout the petroglyph panels add another layer of mystery to the site. Circles, spirals, crosshatches, and various curvilinear patterns appear both alone and in apparent association with representational images. These symbols might represent astronomical phenomena, territorial markers, clan insignia, or religious concepts that formed part of complex belief systems. Dating the Barnesville petroglyphs presents the usual challenges associated with rock art analysis, since organic materials suitable for radiocarbon testing are rarely preserved in direct association with the carved images. Based on style comparisons with other rock art sites and regional archaeological context, most of the track rocks petroglyphs were likely created during the late woodland period, roughly 500 to 1500 years ago. The carving techniques used at the track rocks involve pecking and grinding the sandstone surface using harder stone tools, gradually wearing away the rock face to create the various images. The sandstone's relatively soft nature made it suitable for detailed carving while being hard enough to preserve the finished petroglyphs for centuries. Some images show evidence of multiple episodes of reworking or enhancement over time. The site's location along a small creek wasn't chosen randomly, but reflects the cultural significance of water sources in indigenous belief systems. Streams and springs often served as sacred places where spiritual and earthly realms intersected, making them appropriate locations for rock art creation. The creek setting also provided a natural gathering place where different groups might meet for ceremonies, trade, or social events. Environmental analysis around the track rocks has revealed evidence of long-term human presence in the area spanning several millennia. Archaeological surveys have identified tool-making sites, temporary camps, and other activity areas that suggest the petroglyph panels were part of a larger cultural landscape used repeatedly by different groups over many generations. Recent documentation efforts have employed advanced photographic techniques and three-dimensional scanning to record the petroglyphs in unprecedented detail. Digital enhancement has revealed previously unnoticed images and clarified details of known petroglyphs that were difficult to see under normal lighting conditions. These efforts have significantly expanded the known inventory of images at the site. The preservation challenges facing the track rocks are typical of rock art sites throughout Ohio and the broader region. Natural weathering, vandalism, and environmental changes all threaten these irreplaceable cultural resources. The sandstone's relatively soft nature makes it particularly vulnerable to damage from both natural processes and human interference, requiring ongoing monitoring and protection efforts. Interpretation of the track rocks imagery remains highly speculative due to the absence of clear cultural context and the inherent ambiguity of symbolic art removed from its original meaning systems. Various researchers have proposed explanations ranging from hunting records to ceremonial maps to spiritual narratives, but none can be definitively proven without additional cultural information. Today, the Barnesville track rocks are protected as an archaeological site that provides ongoing opportunities for research while allowing limited public access for education and inspiration. The petroglyphs serve as reminders that Ohio's prehistoric peoples created not only monumental earthworks, but also intimate artistic expressions that reveal glimpses of their daily lives, spiritual beliefs, and symbolic understanding of the world around them.